The observation post on Kether 7 wasn't supposed to be eventful. Lena Crow had accepted that fact 3 months into her solo assignment, cataloging the indigenous fauna of a planet that the Galactic Council had marked as potentially habitable but ecologically volatile. Translation: don't colonize it yet, but keep an eye on things. She'd seen plenty of the local wildlife through her reinforced viewport: six-legged grazers with crystalline horns, aerial predators with wingspans that blocked out the twin suns, and burrowing creatures that moved through stone like water. But none of them had ever approached her station. The Council's scent masking technology was supposedly foolproof, until today. Lena stood outside her prefab shelter, checking the atmospheric scrubbers when she heard it, a low, rumbling growl that made the hair on her arms stand on end. She turned slowly, keeping her movements deliberate and calm, just as the xenobiology training had taught her. 20 meters away, a creature the size of a large dog sat on its haunches, watching her with eyes that glowed like molten copper. Its fur was midnight black with streaks of bioluminescent silver that pulsed rhythmically along its spine. 4 muscular legs ended in paws equipped with retractable claws that left deep grooves in the rocky soil. Its head was broad and angular, with a short snout and ears that swiveled independently, tracking every sound. A Vreka cub. Lena's breath caught in her throat. Adult Vrekas were apex predators 3 meters long, capable of tearing through starship hull plating and possessing a pack intelligence that rivaled some sapient species. Their cubs, while smaller, were still deadly. Council protocols were explicit: maintain distance, avoid eye contact, retreat to shelter immediately, but something stopped Lena from moving. Maybe it was the way the cub sat there, not in a hunting crouch, but in an oddly patient posture. Maybe it was the curiosity in those copper eyes rather than hunger. Or maybe it was the fact that she'd been alone on this rock for 11 months and was slightly tired of following protocols. The cub, she decided to call it Vrek, because it seemed fitting, tilted its head. Its luminescent stripes brightened momentarily, then dimmed. A form of communication, Lena realized. She'd read about this in the preliminary reports, but had never witnessed it firsthand. Well, Lena said quietly, more to herself than to the predator, this is new. Vrek's ears perked forward at the sound of her voice. It shifted its weight, and for a moment Lena thought it might charge. Instead, it sat down more deliberately, haunches settling onto the ground, and stared directly at her. Lena stared back. She didn't know why she did it. Every instinct screamed at her to look away, to show submission or at least non-aggression. But something in that moment felt like a challenge she couldn't ignore. Maybe it was her stubborn Irish-Filipino heritage that her mother always joked about. Maybe it was 11 months of isolation finally breaking something loose in her brain. Or maybe it was just the sheer absurdity of having a staring contest with an alien apex predator. The twin suns beat down on them. Sweat trickled down Lena's spine beneath her field suit. Her eyes began to water, but she didn't blink. Vrek's copper eyes remained fixed on hers, unblinking, unmoving. The bioluminescent stripes along its body pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Minutes passed. Lena's legs began to ache from standing so still. Her eyes burned. But she didn't look away, neither did Vrek, somewhere in the back of her mind. Lena wondered what exactly they were proving to each other. Was this a dominance display? A test? Or was the cub simply as curious about her as she was about it? More time passed. The shadows shifted as one of the suns dipped lower toward the horizon. Lena's vision blurred slightly, but she kept her gaze locked on those molten copper eyes. Then, without warning, Vrek blinked. It was a slow, deliberate blink, both eyes closing and opening in unison. Then the cub made a sound Lena had never heard in any of the recordings, a soft, rumbling chirp that seemed almost amused. Vrek stood up, shook its massive head, and began walking toward her. Lena's heart hammered in her chest, but she held her ground. Every muscle in her body tensed, ready to bolt for the shelter's emergency hatch. The cub approached slowly, not in a stalk but in a casual, almost lazy gait. It stopped directly in front of her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from its body. Vrek looked up at her one more time, those copper eyes studying her face with an intelligence that made her skin prickle. Then, as if making a decision, the cub walked around her legs, circled once, and sat down directly beside her right boot. Lena hardly dared to breathe. Vrek leaned its considerable weight against her leg, let out a long, satisfied sigh, and closed its eyes. Within seconds, the predator cub was dozing, its bioluminescent stripes dimming to a faint glow, its breathing slow and rhythmic. Lena stood frozen, afraid to move, afraid to even think too loudly. An apex predator cub, a creature that could probably crush her windpipe with one bite, was using her boot as a pillow and napping like an oversized house cat. "Okay," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "This is definitely going in the report." She activated her wrist carefully, keeping her movements minimal. The camera feed would record everything. Command would probably think she'd lost her mind. The Galactic Council would have a collective aneurysm. But as she looked down at the sleeping bundle of deadly predator pressed against her leg, Lena couldn't help but smile. Humans had a saying, apex predators recognized apex predators. Maybe that was what had happened here. Or maybe Vrek had simply decided that any creature stubborn enough to win a staring contest was worthy of trust. Either way, Lena thought, standing guard over the sleeping cub as the sun set on Kether 7. This was one hell of a story. And when humanity finally made its case for why they deserved a seat at the galactic table, she'd make sure they knew humans didn't back down from challenges, not even when the challenge had claws, fangs, and glowing stripes. Not even then.